Veteran on the Move, episode 23. Welcome to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you're a transitioning veteran, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone who's still stuck in that job trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. So welcome aboard. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Hi, this is Joe, and I just returned from Podcast Movement 2014 down in Dallas, Texas. What a great event. Podcast Movement is obviously a conference made up of podcasters and all the vendors and other things associated with the great movement going on across the country and around the world in podcasting. You're obviously a fan of podcasts if you're listening to this right now. And the conference was awesome because you're surrounded by other people that podcast. We're allowed to meet other podcasters and trade ideas and talk to a lot of vendors that have products and services to serve the podcasting world. One of the things I appreciated the most about it was I got to meet a lot of great people. And the episode today is a couple that I met down at Podcast Movement, Rachel and Eric Hemingway. Now, Rachel and Eric have a phenomenal story. They, several years ago, sold all their possessions, packed what was left up, and went overseas, bought a sailboat, took all their kids with them, and basically sailed around the world for 3.5 years. I got to talking to them, and I thought that the veteran community, those that are in transition, those that have that entrepreneurial spirit, could certainly identify with what Eric and Rachel did. If you're out there and you're looking to do a transition, you know you got a transition on the horizon. Or maybe you didn't like where you ended up with after your first transition. I really like you to listen to this story because I think there's a lot of military families out there that can identify with what they've done. And there's a lot of parallels with military families moving around the country, moving around the world, and the transitions that military families go through. If you're somebody that's about to make that transition out into the civilian world, you're not sure if you want to go to school, not sure if you want to go back to school, and you don't want to go rush in and get that job to have to start paying the bills. Maybe what you're looking for is a way to unplug, decompress, and go do something abnormal for a little while. And take your family with you. It's very possible you just might be looking for a family adventure. So enjoy this episode with Eric and Rachel. I'm sure you will. And they're here to help you take your family on a family adventure. All right, I just got back from Podcast Movement 14 down in Texas. It was a great time, met some phenomenal people. And one of the folks I met down there was a couple, Eric and Rachel Hemingway. And they dropped everything they had a few years ago and took off on the family adventure. They went over to Greece and started out there, bought a big catamaran, and for 3.5 years, sailed all around the Mediterranean, down the African coast, literally all over different parts of the world and Europe. And they've been back now for a couple of years here in the U.S., and they're just getting their podcast off the ground, Family Adventure Podcast. So Eric and Rachel, it's great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too, Joe. It was great meeting you this weekend.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Awesome. And thanks for being here today. Now, I'd like to go back before all this started. And Rachel, if you're willing to share, you told me about how Eric communicated to you what he wanted to do. Do you mind sharing that?
No, I don't. I think it's a really important piece of the story because that's a question a lot of husbands have is how do I get my wife on board? So in our situation, we were on the treadmill. We were doing the crazy schedule thing with our kids. We had 3 kids at the time. And just kind of feeling like we're missing something. Eric was secretly reading this book called The 1 Year Off. I don't know who the author is. Who is the author, honey?
David Cohen.
David Cohen, about a family that basically sold everything and traveled around the world with their 3 kids just to try something new and out of the box. And so he was really inspired by this book. Like I said, we are very close. We communicate everything, but he didn't actually even tell me he was reading this book. So, so he was very inspired by the book, and decided this is what we needed for our family. So instead of just coming home, which is very smart, and just vomiting the whole idea on me, what he did was very smart and strategic. He ended up writing me a letter, and in the letter basically outlined that he had read this book, he was very inspired, and that he wanted something better for our family, talked about the reasons behind why he wanted to do it, really shared his heart with me, Joe. And it for a wife, it was just really, really, really powerful, because it was smart on his part, because I couldn't interrupt him. I had to read the letter. I probably read the letter 10 times, and I admit I cried every time I read it, but I think I was more moved by the motive behind why he wanted to do something radical with our family. So right away, I was pretty much sold. I'm not sure if I know any wife that wouldn't want her husband to say, I want to spend more time with you and the kids. And that's really basically what kind of sold me on the idea.
Eric, smooth operator.
Smooth, huh?
Yeah. Now, when you read this book and you were writing this letter to Rachel, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? What was going through your mind about where you're at and what you're trying to get away from and what you were trying to do?
For me, it was just, I was on in a stressful job and all that. And so life was just passing me by, and thought, if I don't take some radical steps here, I'm going to look back 20 years from now and nothing will have changed. I mean, we were doing well and we were happy and all that, but I think I just wanted something more. And, different catalyst for different people. For me, it was this particular book. And what really struck a chord with me was they had 3 kids. We had 3 kids at the time. I thought, hey, if they can do it, obviously we had gone traveling internationally ourselves, before we had kids. And I thought, what a cool way to raise your kids, show them the world. It's an adventure for everybody. We'll all be, stretched. We'll be forced, we'll be in uncomfortable situations to draw ourselves closer together. And it just sounded like a great opportunity. And I thought, we can do this. So I really didn't want to blow it and just come home. That's my normal way, as I come home with these crazy ideas all the time. And, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and let's do this. And some of them come to fruition, some of them don't. But I thought, this is important enough where I need to make sure this is, she knows how important this is. And I think, like Rachel said, it just made all the difference, because then she could really see the why. And it's not like we were trying to check mark, all these certain countries off the list, or I had some kind of quest I had to get out of my system, nothing like that. It was just really motivated by trying to build a strong family.
So in the context of veterans that are either in a transition or maybe didn't like the transition that they did to begin with, or maybe they're thinking about what their transition is going to be in the near future, what was it you were trying to escape? What was it you were trying to find? And if you can relate that to a veteran family out there where the veteran wants to reconnect with his family and try something different.
I think we were just trying to escape the normal, just everybody is on the same kind of track, and I don't know, I guess we were just trying to do something different and get out of the box. So it wasn't like we were trying to run away from our problems, but just thought, well, we know what this, for me, I guess, when I'm in the same routine day after day and month after month and, year after year, if I can see the horizon, I'm a little bit bored with it. I want a new challenge. And that's just the way I'm wired, I guess, is I just like new challenges. And, I think speaking to veterans, they're in a really unique situation in their lives. It's a pivotal point, and everything's kind of upside down already or unknown. And it's a great opportunity, I think, to do something radical. And, maybe before you settle down or you put down big roots, maybe it's a time to reconnect with the family. And, you don't have to buy a boat on the other side of the world or anything. You can take an RV and just drive through the southeast states of the United States, or whatever dream you might have, or, goal you want to accomplish. It's certainly doable. And I think it's a great way to kind of establish yourselves as a family, and then move on to the next chapter.
And I had the exact same thought when I was talking to you down at Podcast Movement. I thought, this is it may not exactly be an entrepreneurial venture, but it is a family adventure, and a lot of veterans do have a family, and in some ways their concern is for the family, and they're thinking, well, how am I going to transition and go do something I really want to do, but yet still be able to take care of my family? And that's a concern, and that's oftentimes why a lot of us just go into a job we may not really be happy with or care much about, because at least it'll provide for the family.
Well, I think there's a lot of parallels that you can draw from family travel and entrepreneurship, oddly enough. Both take a lot of guts. Both are into unknowns or unfamiliar territory.
Absolutely.
And, I think that they kind of complement each other. And so we came back from our big trip, and we've started a family business, remodeling old houses and stuff, and back into construction, which is my background. But now I'm able to teach my son. My daughter, she's 13. She's going to be working with us. My other daughter, she helps with the paperwork and the office kind of thing. So, and I think it's built on the sailing experience that we just worked together. We were forced by those situations to work as a team, and that just transfers right over to entrepreneur or a family business, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so from the time Rachel received your letter, it was still about 8 years before you guys actually pulled the trigger and went and did this, right?
That's true.
That's correct. We were trying to get ourselves up, set ourselves up financially. But here's the thing that we see now that we look back on. I mean, we're glad we went and that all. But our advice to other people is don't wait, because it is so. If it's something that you want to do or it's on your heart, it is so less expensive than people even imagine that it would be. Traveling. If traveling is what you want to do. And that would be our advice. We heard that from people. Don't wait, just go. Don't wait until you have the right amount of money, because that'll never happen. And you just get so sucked into the schedule and the treadmill and life. I mean, with life with kids, just, you're on this treadmill that it's really, really hard to step off of. And so it took us 8 years to go, but I think we probably could have done it sooner. And I think both of us kind of wish we would have done it sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it's hindsight. So you never, you can always do it better in your mind than you did the first time around. But, that's how that goes. But, we were concerned about, having the right thing set up. And it wasn't really until we realized we were in a situation where we had sold some commercial property and had a chunk of money to do this adventure. And we thought, if by this time, the economy was in pretty rough shape. This is 2008, 2009. And so we thought, well, there's really nothing to do here construction wise, so we might as well go. And that's kind of what nudged us over the edge. But I wish it would have been us, a year or two earlier saying, let's just do it and leave when things were right at the peak. And, but that's life, and we did it anyways, and you move on.
And so you sold the house, pretty much everything you didn't think you're going to need anymore, and pretty much everything was gone, and off you went, right?
Craigslist is amazing.
Isn't it though?
Joe, 2 weeks and everything was gone. We were sleeping on air mattresses before we left the U.S. So.
And talk about, that's the proverbial burning the ships behind us as we go ashore, and there's no going back.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I think we kind of thought, what's the worst that can happen? We hate it and we start over. I mean, there's lots of people that do it, and we had been talking about it for so long with our kids that they were actually excited about it too. So it was kind of like, let's go for it as a family.
And did your kids ever have a hard time coming on board? I mean, they were a little younger when this whole thing started, but as they started to get into middle school and they got their cell phones and their friends and the social media.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but I think that they were pretty much on board till actually we got on the boat. Then we had a little bit of a harder time with our oldest daughter.
She's like, wait a minute. I didn't think it was going to be like this.
It was like, wait a minute here. But she now sees the value. Obviously, she's married now. And so she sees the value in what we did. And she's glad. She's grateful. But she had a bit of an adjustment time. Our son, on the other hand, he loved it. He was a teenager when we moved on. But, boys are different than girls. some on the general.
Aren't they?
Yeah, our daughter Maggie was 15 when we went on the boat, and she was very excited about it because we were going to go to Europe and see all these cool things. And then when we got on the boat, and I think it was an adjustment for all of us. Obviously, none of us had ever done anything like that, and it's a lot of work. It's not just sipping Mai Tais at sunset. Doing laundry in buckets and carrying your own groceries and having to do a lot of boat maintenance and repairs and all those kind of things. And the honeymoon wears off pretty quick, but she had a little struggle with it after we were onto it, and there was a routine, and she realized this is how it is, this is how it's going to be, kind of at that point open-ended. And then Facebook, she's seeing her friends back in the States getting jobs and hanging out and
driving cars.
Yeah, right. Buying cars. And there was a twinge of jealousy there. Like, I wish we were doing that. And and we were just trying to explain, hey, your time will come and this is just the season for us. And so she got that, that sunk in after 6 months or so of living that way. And but yeah, after so many people we met, we're telling our kids, you're just getting the opportunity of a lifetime, and you don't know how valuable this is. I think eventually it sunk in to all of us.
Yeah.
Right. So now, how did this whole thing start for you guys? You guys started in Greece, and I think that's where you bought your boat, right?
We looked for boats. We found one in Texas, but I think it was out of our price range. And then Eric found one in Greece. Joey literally did not even know what we were looking for because we were from Arizona. And as you know, if you look on a map, there's no ocean that's near Arizona. So it just sounded fun and exciting and an inexpensive way to travel as a family. But Eric ended up flying over to Greece. And go ahead.
Yeah, I flew over there. Not really. No, I'm not a boat guy, so I don't really know what I was looking at. I was just basically looking to see if there was enough beds for it.
Right.
We had 5 kids at the time, but we did hire a surveyor and had it, professionally inspected and made sure it was seaworthy. And then when we did go to the boat to move on to it, we took a lot of safety equipment with us, life jackets and EPIRB and all the things you need to be responsible. And then, our thought originally was we're gonna try it for 1 year. We're gonna sail from island to island in Greece, and then at the end we'll sell the boat, and that'll be that. And kind of blossomed on us a little bit.
Then you guys got hooked, huh?
Yeah,
we got hooked. Yeah, there's so many islands in Greece, and we were having a good time. And then probably right before our year came up, we found out that we were going to have another baby. So at that point, we were at another crossroads. It's like, okay.
Wait a minute. You guys were on a catamaran with your 5 other kids, and somehow you guys are going to have a 6th one? How's that happen?
You do not know.
There is 4 cabins, and
Okay, what kind of boat was it? It was some kind of catamaran, right?
It's called a Dean catamaran. It's built in South Africa, and it's 1985. It's nothing flashy. It's not fast or glamorous. We call it the station wagon of the seas because it's just sits low in the water. It's heavy. It's really safe. It's kind of like a tank, a sailing tank. Hand-laid fiberglass, really thick. But it was perfect for what we needed.
We decided that we wanted to go with an older model so that we didn't want to take a loan out on it. We just wanted to, pay cash. And we found out later that was the better option because the older boats are actually the safer ones. They were the ones that are made better, and they're just a sturdier boat in general with less problems. So that worked out to our benefit because, we were looking at money-wise, and in the end, it worked out better for us.
Wow. Now, I'm curious about when you had your 6th child. You guys didn't actually have the kid on the boat, right?
We thought we were going to originally. We were found out we were pregnant while we were in Turkey, and so we set to calling around different countries and areas looking for a midwife. We'd had a couple other kids in the States with a midwife and really liked that experience. So we found a midwife in Israel who was American and had immigrated there in the early 70s. And really just connected with her on the phone, on Skype. And she said, yeah, once you get here, we'd love to connect. She actually had birthing cabins on her property, which was about, 45 minutes from the coast.
From the boat where we would be. Yeah.
Wow.
Staying. So that was what we ended up doing was we sailed to Cyprus and then on to Israel. And then met her, I think, when Rachel was...
You just sailed the boat into Israel?
I know, it sounds crazy. I actually had done, this is my sixth child. So it's not like it was my first one. I probably would have been a little more apprehensive. So I kind of knew the drill. I knew what tests I needed to do. And I kind of had a blood pressure cuff on the boat with me. And I, checked all that. I kept up on all that. And then I would just check in with her periodically. So that obviously played into my advantage, but she was really she was American, which I felt comfortable with. I had seen other doctors that didn't speak English, which made me a little nervous. And so she was amazing, and she was American, and it worked out great. We ended up moving into Jerusalem through another opportunity that just kind of came at us. We volunteered for a nonprofit organization to get off the boat, and then were offered an apartment in downtown Jerusalem for our family as volunteers, and then ended up having the baby at the apartment there. So that all worked out. But we had originally thought that we would have the baby on the boat or...
yeah, she was actually excited. She's like, I've never delivered a baby on a boat before, so if you guys want to do that, I'm up for it. We're thinking, well, it's a little cramped as it is, and, I don't know if our stove can keep up boiling water and all.
But that's actually a great story of how, what we think sometimes as Americans, like you got to have all the details figured out. That kind of just unfolded as we were experiencing it. It's kind of the fear of the unknown. You don't really know what's available to you if you never try it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So through meeting her, then being there, volunteering for the organization turned into, we were able to, have some time in Jerusalem, of all cities of the world, which is an amazing place. So
yeah, what an experience.
Yeah, that's where my daughter met her husband. So really, that just kind of unfolded into another great experience, just because we were willing to say, hey, we're not going to fly home to have this baby. Millions of people have babies all over the world in other countries other than America. We're going to go for it and see what happens.
And so you decided to sail on into Israel at like 3 a.m. or something like that. How'd that work out for you?
Well, I mean, our boat is, not fast. So we were only going 4 or 5 knots, which is basically walking speed, So we're about, in Israel, as you can imagine, the security is super tight. And I'm sure, all of your listeners that are in the military know the issues over there and the tension. So
right.
when you're about 50 miles away, 40 miles away, you're on their radar already, and they know you're coming in. So they'll make radio contact and get all the information of who's on board, nationality, passport numbers, on and on and on. And then they actually come out and do a site inspection on the water. And so they called us like 10 at night, and we thought, we'll be into port by 7 a.m. So no problem. Well, when you get like 15 miles out or whatever, 15 to 20 miles out, that's when they want to do the inspection. So that wound up to be 3 a.m. And so that, we're sailing along, just minding our business. All of a sudden floodlights come on, and there's a PT boat out there with, 20 guys on deck, 50 calibers pointed at us, and the captain's on the radio, just verifying all the same information we gave him 4 hours earlier.
I think no sound. We didn't even hear them.
No, they just came out of nowhere.
Like stealth mode.
Two ships passing in the night.
Like a wake, and we thought, oh, what's that? And then all of a sudden, boom, we were like on television or something. All these floodlights on.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah, when you're under sail, all you have is like a tri-light on the very top. Just one little light bulb, red, green, and white, and that's all we had. So it's pretty much pitch black. And then these guys came out of I thought it was a submarine, as fast as they came out on us.
So Joe, my husband's going, Rachel, take a picture. And I'm like, I'm not taking a picture of a man with a floodlight on.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that flash to go off. It'd be misconstrued.
I don't think they would have appreciated that. But
I
mean, I understand they're, and actually when we came back to Israel, it was only, I think we got back like 2 days before the Turkish flotilla issue in 2010. Yeah. So tensions were pretty high. I think that boat had already left Turkey, and when we were there, so maybe that played into it. I don't know.
Yeah, but probably.
We talked to other boaters, and the security is tight, but super friendly. Nobody was gruff or in your face. It was just, they just have to be cautious because they're in a pretty tough neighborhood.
Yeah,
sure.
For sure.
Now, you spent most of your time in the Mediterranean, and I think you said one of your favorite places to take the sailboat at was up in the Turkey area, right?
Yeah.
We loved it. Turkey was fantastic. We spent about 7 or 8 months there altogether.
Very friendly people.
Yeah.
My actual favorite was Malta. Malta was a highlight for me, and I think the kids too. Really, really diverse. We spent some. Oh, did you want to talk about Turkey? I'm sorry, Joe.
We're here to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
There you go. Yeah. So back to Turkey. What we liked about it was people were super friendly and very patriotic. They were genuinely interested that you were enjoying Turkey and what your favorite things were, that you were having a great time. Every town has an open air market once or twice a week. So lots of inexpensive fresh produce, fruits and veg, and cheeses that farmers would bring in from the countryside. And it was just the coastline is so jagged that you have these little bays, just one after the other. And you get a bay all to yourself. You put anchor in there, crystal clear water, and then these steep mountains with pine trees coming right down to the water. It's just
really
gorgeous
beautiful
country.
We were invited by many families because we had so many kids, we were kind of, like the attraction to have tea and sit down and meet their family. And so it was exactly like Eric said, they were very friendly, very welcoming. It was great. It was a great experience for us.
And I'm sure you hit plenty of other places in the Med also. Or, 3.5 years, you probably covered most of it. Or did you stick around just a couple areas most of the time?
No, we ended up, our original intention was to stay in Greece for a year, but we ended up seeing about 24 countries and sailing some 16,000 nautical miles altogether, which we never would have dreamed, including crossing the Atlantic, which we never would have dreamed had somebody told us that in the beginning. But, just one place leads to the next, and we just had some great adventures all along the way.
And so there at the very end, you took it all the way across the Atlantic?
We did. We never, people were asking us while we were in the Mediterranean, other sailors, real sailors, they were saying, are you guys crossing this year? And we're like, crossing what? Crossing the street? And
yeah.
Like, no, you're crossing the Atlantic, because most people, a lot of boaters we ran into were circumnavigating, sailing around the whole world. So their schedule is to come through the Mediterranean and then cross the Atlantic back towards the Caribbean and so on. And we thought, well, we're not crossing. They're like, well, you could. This boat could easily do it. And they're like, well, it did sail from South Africa. So I thought, well, I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
Wow.
So when we were leaving Israel after we got the baby, Miles John, once we got his passport and his birth certificate and all that, we said, well, our kids are getting older now. Our older kids, they were 17 and 16, and they were wanting to start lives. We thought, I guess it's time we start making our way back to the States. Not in a big rush, but we're going to start sailing west and just enjoying ourselves this last year in the Mediterranean. And if we get across the Mediterranean okay without major issues and we feel comfortable, then let's make plans to cross the Atlantic. And so, we never pushed ourselves to go beyond it, what everybody was comfortable with. So
we figured too, if we last in the Mediterranean, there's a couple of 3, 4, 5 night sails in the Mediterranean. Like when you go from Greece to Italy, it's a 5-day sail, I think it is.
3 days, yeah.
And so we had a few of those we felt like if we had a few of those under our belts and we could see what it would be like to be, you're not stopping.
To do some,
to do some overnight, someone's at the helm 24/7, and our kids were comfortable with it and we all felt good about it. Then from there we would analyze it. It was a constant communication with our kids and family the whole time. We never wanted anyone to feel like they were trapped or whatever. We wanted them to always feel like, hey, we're in this together. You're having hard days. We're going to just encourage each other, and we're all in this together, kind of a thing.
That's incredible. You guys took the catamaran sailboat all the way across the Atlantic with 6 kids.
It was. Thinking back on it now, it was pretty crazy. But so we got to Gibraltar. We're heading out of the Mediterranean now, and by that point we had said, we feel comfortable that we could tackle it. It'd be a big project, but it's going to feel really cool once we've accomplished it. So.
And how many days did it take you to get across the Atlantic?
The actual passage was 18 days.
Wow.
Yeah, no land, nothing but water.
Holy cow, that's crazy.
some family time. We had some serious, no internet, no video games, no friends. We were seriously connecting as a family. So
yeah. Talk blue water ops. Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So before that, we kind of went out of the way a little bit on the west coast of Africa. Most boaters that are cruising will come out of Gibraltar, come out of the Mediterranean, go straight to the Canary Islands, which are owned by Spain. And then from there, they'll cross the Atlantic or sometimes sail down to the Cape Verde Islands off the coast of Africa. We went to Morocco and spent some time there, which was great. And then we actually sailed down to Senegal and the Gambia, which a little further down, and got to take the boat up the river, which hardly any cruisers get to experience. And that was just fantastic to see the situation there. It was the water turns to fresh water about 100 miles up the river, and we got to see hippos and crocodiles in the wild, and just met some amazing people there.
I went into some of these villages, and it was very, very impacting for our kids just to see the crazy, we had been in Rome, and now we're in the Gambia River, where these people just have, hardly anything.
Yeah.
And so got to meet, some families and connected in some villages, and obviously we were the only white people. So, but it was very impacting.
But even still, the kids were able to see that even with nothing, these people are still happy, friendly, glad to see us, and met some great people there. So it was really cool. Mm-hmm. So then from there, we sailed out of Africa to Cape Verde Islands, which is another country there, about 500 miles off the coast.
That was a 5-day passage.
Right. So 5 days from there to the Cape Verde Islands. I'm sorry, and then from there we left towards the Caribbean.
All right. And so you've been back here for a little while, and a couple of years now, and you guys have started the Family Adventure podcast, right?
Right. Yeah. After coming back to the States, we met a lot of people that were very curious about our story and how did you do it, and money-wise, and how did you not kill each other, and how did you not drown at sea, and all those kind of things. And we had met other families on our trip, Americans or French or Australian, all kinds of great people. And we thought, hey, maybe there's enough people that would be curious about what we did and what other people are able to do, that we could start a podcast and share their stories. So that's basically what we do. We have a weekly show. We interview families that have traveled in all kinds of ways, RVing around the United States, bicycling across continents, living abroad, just house sitting, or renting a house for a year in Spain, and then they use that as a home base and travel around all of Europe. So all kinds of different stuff. And our family was so impacted, by what we were able to do, and we were able to see the benefits. I'm not saying that family travel is the only way to draw your family closer together, but for us, it was a pretty stark realization that that's what helped us form some awesome relationships with our kids and with each other. And so we thought, well, we want to encourage families to travel. I mean, you can do it. It's all budgets, all styles. If obviously not everybody's a sailor, and people get seasick or whatever. So yeah, it doesn't have to be that. But if you get out of your comfort zone, I think, and allow yourself to be tested a little bit, mm-hmm. Some good things can come of it. And
that's one of the things with talking with you guys. You have definitely set the bar pretty high. So one of the things you said was, look, you didn't set out to be on a sailboat for 3.5 years. And one of the things you had recommended to folks that might be interested in doing this was, you could start with just get on B&B and rent a place in Greece for a month during the summer. And you guys just live there for a month and see how you like it, see how it goes, and then decide what you want to do next after that.
Actually, that's high on our 10-year-old's list. Lily, she's like, when can we rent a house in Greece? And we're like, okay, we'll check into that. So that is a great option. And it's not like you have to, for some people, like, sell it all, get rid of everything, take everything you own to Goodwill is like so overwhelming, and it's not for everyone. We're pretty radical people, and I think sometimes we can overwhelm people with our story, and we don't want to. We want to say, hey, even just people in our area, go connect with your kids. That's the real message that we're trying to say. Go connect with your kids, be a family, think outside of the box, because when you do something outside of your norm, that's when real changes will happen. That's when the bonding will happen. And we've just seen it over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter what you do. You just do something. That's our tagline. Zoe says, do big things with your family. And that's what it is. It's what you feel like is a big thing for your family.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. The last thing we want to do is tell people we have it all figured out, or, we're these great world travelers or anything like that. We're absolutely making it up as we go.
We tricked you.
That's what we've been doing. That's so coming back.
I'm starting to figure out that's what everybody's doing.
That's what everybody's doing, whether they want to admit it or not.
I think we're just willing. We just want to connect with our kids, and we just want to know. We want life to be real. So
yeah, that's part of the reason behind the podcast. We came back and thought, hey, I don't know anything about online business or podcasting. Looks like we should probably dive into that.
Why not?
Yeah, pretty much.
Speaking of that, why don't you put in a plug for your podcast and your website, where people can find you and what they're gonna gain out of listening to your podcast.
Great. Well, our website is familyadventurepodcast.com. We've been at it for 6 or 7 months now. There's 30 something episodes on there, and families from all over the world. They're telling their stories. Big dramatic stories or simple stories, either way. And we're excited we'd love to connect with people. If people have questions or they know somebody that they think would be a good fit for the show, we'd love to have them on. It's our dream that people listen to the show, get inspired, and think, hey, we can do this. And that'd be the best compliment for us, is if people just went for it.
All right, well, that's great. Rachel and Eric Hemingway, it was great meeting you down at Podcast Move It. Great talking with you here on the show. And thanks for sharing your story. It's fascinating.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Joe. We really enjoyed this.
Thanks for having us, Joe. And really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, it was a great pleasure. And good luck with your podcast and everything else. And we'll stay in touch.
Great, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.